don't know if it's launched yet.
Yeah, they're both EU players.
Oh, okay.
So I would suspect that they're playing on EU. So maybe if we get to see an NA versus NA match, we'll get to see these new Black Rack Mountain cards.
Yeah, it might be the case that all the matches
Here's
are done on
hoping.
EU, so we probably won't be getting to see any of those Emperor Thorstein shenanigans. But Kaldi back with the Chillwind Yeti. Back with the Yeti. This is a card, I have to say, I haven't seen quite much of in a long time in Druid. Am I just away from the metagame, and you can enlighten me here?
Well,
I'm happy
a lot
with
of
it,
players, a lot of players have been adding back in Chillwind Yeti into their decks, and the rationale behind that is Pilot Shredder is really good, but you want even more 4-drops. A lot of players have been saying that 4-drops are just the 4-mana turn is the most impactful turn in Hearthstone right now. So there's been a kind of a movement to just throw everything into the 4-drop slot, throwing everything so have it more all in.
Yeah,
And,
I can understand that.
Exactly. Like a lot of Druid players before, they were just throwing everything to the 5-drop slot with Azure Drake, Druid the Claw, Sludge Belcher, Lotha,
Spectral
Parasite
Knights,
Jones,
yeah,
even Spectral Knights. But now people are thinking, hey, 4-drop is more relevant because you have the Violet Teacher turns, the Pilot Shredder turns, and it's going to be more impactful. So why not build Druid to be more aggressive in that manner?
Yeah, and Kaldi's gonna get a really nice curve here. Gets the Innervate Coin Yeti, obviously, but his turn 2 Wild Growth allows for a turn 3 Shredder and to turn 5 Spectral Knight, which is one of the toughest minions to remove for just about everyone, in fact. I was gonna say for Warrior, but that's true of every single class. Everybody's got trouble with the Spectral Knight.
Another reason why he might be including Yeti in his Druid deck is that he's been researching Kolento a lot, and he is a player that practices a lot, who researches a lot into his opponents. So another reason why he might be including Yeti is that he knows that Kolento really likes the Priest deck, and you just want more minions that have 4 attack in your deck. So basically every single minion we can see on on Kaldi's side of the board, or even in Kaldi's hand, has those
stats, yeah.
Those
the
stats,
4
exactly.
attack. That's exactly what you want to get against Priest, because they can't Shadow Word Death, then they can't Shadow Word Pain, and they can't Shadow Madness, so a lot of cards in Kolento's deck end up being dead as a result.
Yeah. Kaldi decides not to kill the Armorsmith because he suspects that his opponent has an Execute in his hand. And he's correct, but he gets punished for not trading because his opponent also has a Cruel Taskmaster in his hand.
Yeah, that allows him to get the perfect trade here. Gets the board and also gets to keep the Armorsmith. Well, we'll see what comes out of the Shredder. This is very defined. Never mind. I was going to say defining moment, but not in this case. I feel like a lot of games sometimes get decided upon what comes out of that Shredder at times.
Yeah, exactly. And even though Kaldi just had the most opportune hand, it feels like just Kolento has had the right answers every single time with the Executes and Fire War Axe against the piloted Shredder.
Yeah, and he's going to have to make up his mind whether he wants to be defensive a little bit here. And he will be, apparently. Kolento will be forced to use up all his minions on that Druid of the Claw. Or you can play Sludge Belcher and play a little passively. I think that's not a bad idea either. You can get a better trade here with the War Axe later on.
Yeah, Sludge Belcher behind an Armorsmith rather behind a Sludge Belcher is always nice.
Yep, you're going to get yourself at least 2 armor out of it. But Kaldi, not finding what he wants here, although that, Keeper of the Grove.
The Sludge Belcher just trades so effectively against the Druid of the Claw that you just want to fit that 1 damage in. But then to fit that 1 damage in, you can't play the Spectral Knight there. So I guess you want to fit in the Keeper of the Grove as well. But if you Keeper, you have to just go for the 2 damage. It doesn't just it just feels bad either way.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit of video lag here, so I can't really follow the game at the moment. We'll have to restart the Skype call again, apparently, I think. Seems to be a bit of an issue. Oh, I think the game's coming back. Maybe it is. Hopefully, we'll get to see what happened. Okay, wait. Keeper of the Grove was not used. He just played Spectral Knight behind it, floating 1 mana. And Kolento top-decked a Piloted Shredder to follow up with the aggression. Alright. Alright, back in this game. Oh, wow. That's a nice top deck if I've ever seen one. Actually, it feels a bit early. You kind of want to do it Keeper next turn, but it's still pretty solid.
Yeah, I think you have to go for now. Like, this looks like the board is actually reversed. Like, typically it's the druid with this many minions on the board, and it's the warrior that has like one random guy on the field. But it's just the complete opposite.
Yeah. Not something you see very frequently. He's going to give his opponent a ton of armor here with that swipe. Oh man, Kolento's got to feel pretty happy about that. Not only is it fueling shield slams, but it's also just pretty good on its own.
Yeah,
Wrathful card draw here. Get rid of this.
So at this point, Kaldi is thinking that he's given his opponent enough armor that the rest of it just doesn't really matter. Just give him all the armor. Yeah, there's just going to be Death Spite coming down.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice trade here. Going to allow him to get... I mean, the armor that he gained is effectively gone, but now he's sitting on 28 effective health on turn 7. This is not at all the position you want to be in if you're Kaldi.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great deck against Priest, mind you. This start would have demolished Priest, but...
Oh, man.
Against a warrior who has the Execute early on with the Cruel Task, it's a bit more tricky.
Dr. Boom coming down. And Kolento might have a bit of trouble dealing with it. He can attack it, possibly.
You could
deal with it that way, but then you take 7 damage plus the boom mob hits.
The only time where this goes wrong with Brawl is when you play when the Dr. Boom survives, and you can't take that risk. So he's just gonna go for the trade, take the tank the boom bots. How much damage? Whoa, 7 damage from the boom bots.
Yeah, way above average.
That is crazy. Isn't average 8? I thought it was a little under average.
Well, average is 5.
Okay, I thought it was 8. It's always 8.
Okay, that's true. It's either 8 or not 8, right? So it's 50% chance to get 8.
Yeah, you either have it or you don't, right? Amaz math. That's where I learned my math.
Ah, great place. The School of Amaz.
So Kolento's got a Ragnaros. He's probably gonna have to play. Oh, you know what? It's perfectly curving with that shield slam, and oh my god, is that a power play? Do you even bother though? What if you're afraid of combo? Oh wow, he's gonna play it very safely here.
Well, yeah, I think he's afraid of BGH with this play, so he just puts up a really resilient board, and this is actually really difficult for Druid to deal with.
Yeah, he's gonna have to drop Sylvanas and find an Innervate perhaps to follow up with something, because Sylvanas on her own is good, mind you, but she's not perfect. He's going to try to fetch something with Wild Growth. What is he going to find?
Wild Growth Part 1, and here's Wild Growth Part 2.
A second Keeper, that is not what you want. But then again, you can still play Sylvanas, so things are well. I mean, you're going to get one of those 2 Shield Maidens, right? If you're not dead, of course. Which you might be. There's a 50-50 here. Kolento just wins.
I think Kolento's just going to go for it. I don't think he can really win in any other way.
Yeah, and honestly, if Kaldi gets any minion on this board, he might be able to swing back in the game. But if Kolento gets the 50-50, that's going to be game for the Warrior. And it's the game. All right. Well, that was sealed. Kolento's Warrior beats one of the possibly slightly unfavored matchup that he could run into, but ultimately 1-0 for Kolento. Warrior's locked out. He's got his Priest left and his Druid. So
yeah, I think even though Kaldi lost that game, he's not too unhappy. That Druid deck was obviously built to also beat Priests, so I think that Druid is going to at least pick up a single game in this series.
Well, if you know that Kolento's playing Priest, you bring 3 decks that counter it. Handlock, Rogue, Druid. That's built against Priest. It feels to me like Kaldi nailed the lineup if he wants to beat Priest specifically. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this, does it? I can't really think of a better decks to bring than those 3 if he does bring them.
Yeah, and specifically we were talking before, specifically the Conquest format, where you're allowed to bring just, especially in this Pro League format, where you're allowed to bring different decks against each opponent. You can really try to predict what your opponent will bring, and then just bring 3 decks to counter that one deck. Meanwhile, you can just throw all the other games, essentially, and just hope to 3-0 that single deck. And it's actually a viable strategy. We saw Savitz use it last round he brought 3 decks that were really good against Hunter. 6-0 also used it last round. He brought 3 decks that were really good against Rogue.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's a strategy that's viable, but it's also exploitable because if you don't run into the deck that you prepared against, then suddenly you get punished, right? If you
Yeah.
prepared 3 decks against a specific type of a specific archetype and you don't see it, then suddenly your lineup is now very inefficient. And it reminds me a bit like it's a weakness of the Conquest format, I'd say, and a viable strategy. But interestingly enough, you've got Life Coach, who's the most predictable player ever. He always brings the same decks, yet he's still undefeated in this league. And
Yeah.
RDU, his first opponent in the first week, he was a team kill. RDU brought everything to deal with Headlock. It brought double BGH in his decks, and he was prepared to just line up perfectly against Life Coach, but he couldn't get the win. So albeit it's a viable strategy, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be able to reverse sweep even if you throw the first 2 games.
Yeah. There's kind of 2 components to Hearthstone. There's first of all, there's 3 components. There's preparation, there's your skill of play, and then there's the RNG factor.
Exactly.
And all 3 of them have to line up perfectly. And even if you prepare perfectly and you play perfectly, there's always RNG. So
Yep.
even if you do everything right, you might not even win the series.
Yep, so we're going to be moving on to the next game in this match. It's going to be Druid from Kolento versus from Kaldi. So it's going to be the Bow of the Wild Growths.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
That is indeed what it's called, and I feel like this is probably the most played matchup in Hearthstone, Druid versus Druid.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's maybe not the most exciting, with whoever draws Wild Growth first usually wins the game, right?
Who has the best curve? It's whoever curves perfectly or curves the best. Not even perfectly, whoever curves the best. It's not even about curving, in the flawless manner, just whoever gets the shredder, not even the shredder, like shade into 4-drop, into 5-drop, into 6-drop, like you're fine. And Innervate helps a lot. You might not have a 5-drop, but you've got Innervate with Ancient of Lore, suddenly you do have a 5-drop. And Innervate allows you to make those curves a bit more consistent. And I think as a result, that's why those matchups tend to feel very, as you said, not very exciting, is because we know that it's all about playing on tempo.
Yeah. Actually, in the last 3 or 4 Druid matches that I casted where one player got Wild Growth and the other player got Innervate, you'd really expect the Wild Growth player to win every single time, but it was actually the Innervate player that won every single time by innervating out either a Shade or a Pilot Shredder. Because the matchup is so tempo focused, I feel like the Innervate really helps out, whereas if you draw Wild Growth, you can curve out to bigger things, but you can't deal with like the recursive 3 or 4 damage that's going to your face every single turn.
Exactly, and sometimes like Wild Growth is great, but it needs to be complemented with a perfect curve. And if your opponent, I feel like Innervate is more potent than Wild Growth in general. As a card, I feel like it gives you a bigger edge than Wild Growth ever could. More so, I think, in the mirror match with Druid than everything else.
Yeah, like sometimes you can just innervate out a Shade, then coin out a Shade, and then your opponent just wins.
Yeah, exactly, and that will just be you can just like the Shade sits there and it grows to the point where nothing can be done about it, right? Sylvanas is pretty much the only way to handle it very effectively. So as soon as you're ready to combo it, you win the game. It's and I feel like this might explain, and I've said this before, but some people might not have heard it. I feel like this might explain why Druids, when expansions come out, tend to get cards that are very dull and more arena focused than constructed, because those cards, they've already got the unfair stuff. They've got their unfair cards. They've been dealt a good deal of unfair constructed value. If you feed them more of that, you might tip the class into a place where it's broken, and suddenly the game feels like it's stale because Druids dominate so heavily.
Yeah, I feel like whenever, like in the new expansions, they release kind of just really good solid minions like Emperor Thurzane.
Yep.
They kind of are better in Druid than other classes because Druid can get those cards out a little faster with Innervate and Wild Growth. Like you can possibly have a turn 3 or 4 Emperor Thurzane, and your opponent won't be able to deal with a 6/6 on turns.
It's a 5/5 at the very least.
5/5, sorry. A 5/5 on turns 3 or 4. Like they can Aldor it, but that still doesn't kill it, right?
Yeah, and the worst part is that is compounded, I think, by the fact that the mana reduction is very, very impactful in Druid. The ability to play a combo for 7, or to curve out a Druid of the Claw on turn 4, or to play a Shredder on turn 3, like all this mana reduction is a huge deal for Druids, more so than anything. I think for any other class, it's not necessarily as impactful, where they want to punch you in the face with beat down minions and then finish the game with a combo. So if that goes down to 7 mana, you are in a world of trouble.
And the game is about to begin. We have Druid versus Druid. Let's see who draws the Wild Growth and who draws the Innervates.
So far, Kolento's doing pretty good on that front, but it's still not sealed. Kaldi could get a really solid mulligan.
Yeah. In this matchup, even though Kolento is running Zombie Chow, I think it might even be the correct play to just throw it away. We see on Dog's stream, for example, Dog is obviously a premier Druid player. He actually just throws away the Zombie Chows in this matchup. Then again, you also have the Innervate in your hand already, so it might be you might be more likely to keep the Zombie Chow.
Yeah, because otherwise, without Innervate, you want to fetch for the Innervates, but when you've got it, what do you have to worry about? I think we may be seeing a Doctor 4. I think we might be seeing a Doctor 4 here, and Kaldi is, at this point, not looking too good. Oh man, if Doctor 4 comes out.
Yeah, Doctor 4 not only will it be just really strong, but the Boombots will be able to contest the Shade that Kaldi will almost certainly play.
Alright, so Kolento is going to go for the turn 2 Druid of the Claw instead of the Doctor 4, maybe sensing a weakness to BGH.
Yeah, I think this is the more stable play.
Yep.
And even a taunt. He's not really afraid of Innervate Black Knight here.
You know what? If it did happen, though. Oh, you know, like Kaldi is at least going to be curving pretty well, and the Shade is going to be able to grow unhindered for a little while. Oh my god, Kolento playing the BGH for tempo. He's going to be pushing as much damage as he can now.
Yeah, just all the minions are coming down.
Yep. Oh, that swipe is pretty nice.
I'm not sure what you swipe on this turn, though. Because swipe at most can only kill 1 minion.
I wouldn't play swipe now. I think you can play the Shredder to weaken the board a little bit and then get a better swipe afterwards.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Sounds like the play.
Doctor 5.
So, Wrath, what's going to come out? Maybe Explosive Sheep, Unstable Ghoul, Shrinkmeister.
I was going to have to get physical with that gnome. Not something I'd like to do. Do you even kill it, or do you let the opponent have? I think you have to kill it, if only for the possibility that it gives you gives him a guaranteed kill on the Druid of the Claw.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And yeah, you give up your Zombie Chow, but that's alright. Zombie Chow's gotten a lot of work done already.
Lotheb is the only thing that's going to prevent Kolento from Dr. 5ing. Otherwise, I think this game is going to slip away from Kaldi in the next turn.
Oh, yeah, certainly. You also just want to have the most impactful minion on your side of the board as possible.
Yeah. Well, he is opting for Spectral Knight, and that is going to be what Kolento is waiting for, getting 8 damage in here. There's also the possibility of Lotheb, but you can't not play Dr. Boom on curve, can you? There you go. Well,
there you go.
11 health left for Kaldi. Those Boombots could almost on their own take care of that.
Yeah, at this point, you can't even BGH and swipe on the same turn, so Dr. Boom's going to be just pretty much impossible to deal with at this point.
Yeah, I think you attack the Druid of the Claw with your 5/5, then you swipe Dr. Boom, hero power the 4/2, and then trade the Spectral Line to Boom.
Yeah.
It'd be a very risky line of play, but ultimately, what choice do you have, right?
So if you swipe Dr. Boom now, you have the possibility of
getting punished, but I think the odds are too slim for you to play around it.
Alright, so swipe comes down, and both the minions on Kaldi's side of the board are still green, so it means they both survive. So they're actually pretty good Boombots for Kaldi relative to what he could have gotten.
Exactly, but I mean, there is a Lotheb left, and lucky for Kaldi, that Lotheb is going to be impossible for Kolento to curve alongside the hero power to kill that Shade. So we'll have to see what Kolento finds here, but he might... Oh, never mind. Change of plans. Yep, a little change of plans. Now the question is, does he value 2 damage to the face more so than saving his health?
I guess the 2 damage to the face could help you finish the game off with Swipe or Druid of the Claw in the next turn.
Because it's 1 extra damage exactly.
Yeah, but I think this is fine too because the only way your opponent can get above that threshold is if they hero power, and I think if your opponent hero powers on the next turn, you're going to be okay with that.
So Kaldi has the Ancient of Lore to get back above 10. If he plays Drake and Wrath, he still dies to Force of Nature, Swipe, Druid of the Claw, so he's got to be very wary of that. And he's probably going to go for the safe heal play with the Ancient of Lore, but Kolento's going to be able to draw 2 more cards and fetch for the lethal. Well,
are you worried about a possible Savage Roar on the next turn? Like, let's say you heal, you bring yourself up to 10, and then something like double Savage Roar deals...
it's lethal.
Is lethal, yeah.
I mean, you might be worried about it, but honestly, I think this is still the safest play, because at least you're not dead to Swipe, Druid of the Claw, and Force of Nature on top of it. So you've got to at least consider that. And you've got enough card draw. You're not too worried about that.
The other issue is that if you play the Ancient of Lore, you develop a slightly stronger body. So if your opponent plays like Lotheb, for example, you can contest it.
Yeah.
And especially your opponent, you have to expect your opponent is going to play his Ancient of Lore on turn 7. So in that respect, this is better as well.
Well, Kolento finds a Swipe and a Savage Roar, which puts him exceptionally close to lethal here. He can play Drake Wrath if he desires.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the play.
How much do you like Force of Nature with hero power? Where you trade the trees into the 5/5 and use your Ancient to kill the 2/4. Is that not the winning play because you've got the Savage Roar?
I feel like, judging from what I've seen so far from Kaldi's deck, I think there's only going to be 1 Force of Nature.
Okay.
And if you give up your 1 Force of Nature in your deck, I don't think there's really much of a possibility to win. Like, you have to, at this point, you kind of have to try to steal a win. And the way you steal a win is with the combo.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, he's opting for a Wrath play here.
So both swipes are both swipes gone from Kaldi, or has he only used 1 swipe?
He's only used 1 swipe, so there's a possibility that it gets better. He does play Lotheb, and he does kill that minion, but the 2/4 will live on. So he's basically replacing 1 5/5 with another 5/5. I can't blame him for that. I think it's fine.
Okay,
but because he locks the spells out, he can get himself a good Force of Nature Roar for removal purposes, but I mean, the Kolento's hand is just a powerhouse, and I think he gets lethal no matter what with Swipe Savage Roar next turn. Swipe Roar Hero Power is going to be lethal.
Yeah, unless Kaldi can somehow return his Lotheb into his hand. But no, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I really doubt it. Well, what if he plays a little Exorcist?
Huh? True.
No, he doesn't have it. Wow, I get 5 mana Innervate. The ramp is real.
Play that card, lose 3 mana.
What you gonna do with all that mana?
All that mana inside your mana pool.
We're so good on tempo here. We're the best singers. You're the karaoke master, right?
I wouldn't say that, but I do enjoy my share of karaoke.
All right, yeah, I'm not very experienced in karaokeing. So Kolento takes the game 2-0 up over Kaldi in this position. That sounded way nastier than what I meant it to sound like, but Kolento is up 2-0 over Kaldi in this series.
That's true.
Not
Very
in this
accurate.
position. Yes, obviously. So that means Kolento's down to his Priest deck, which Kaldi, I think, is very well prepared to handle.
Yeah, definitely agree. We've only seen the Druid deck from Kaldi so far, but even if he just plays the Druid deck, I think he'll be in a great position. Kolento is known for going on record for saying that he thinks Druid versus Priest is 50-50.
Yeah.
But that's if the opponent, that's if the Druid plays like a standard Druid. For example, he plays like Sludge Belchers, more defensive cards like those Sludge Belchers.
You can Shadow Madness
that. Exactly. You can Shadow Madness that and then recombobulate it. Pretty much like if you get a Shadow Madness into Recombobulator, it's pretty much just game over at that point.
Yeah.
But there's no possibility for that kind of play in Kaldi's deck.
Yeah, not from what we've
Sludge
seen.
Belchers.
Exactly.
Like you can still like Shrink Master into Cabal, But the difference between Shrinkmaster and caballing a Spectral Knight versus Shrinkmaster caballing a Sludge Belcher is that if you steal a Sludge Belcher, you're protected from the combo, whereas if you steal a Spectral Knight, you still have the chance to die to that
Exactly, to die to the combo, so you're not out of it at that point. And the interesting part is that beyond the Druid alone, Kaldi still has a Warlock and a Rogue, which are, known to be good matchups against Priest in general.
Yeah, so I think it's exactly what, even though Kaldi is down 0-2, I think this is the exact position that he wants to be in if he's down 0-2. He has 3 decks that are favorable against his opponent's last deck, and it's his strategy going through this, going to this round the entire time. Kill the Priest 3-0, and I think Kaldi can have a
He's got a
good
chance
possibility.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not impossible. We've seen it happen. People do build their lineups according to the opponents, and this is the strategy of Conquest. I think you have to prepare a lot against what you think your opponent will be doing. There's a lot. I mean, the last hero standing format favors counter picking, whereby you bring decks that are counter, like one at a time. Each deck beats one deck. Whereas in a Conquest format, you have to make a read it's a huge gamble. Assuming your opponent's going to be playing that one deck. It's a gamble you're taking because they might just switch up their game and not bring what you expect. But if you can make that call and it does pay out, then you'll be fine. But Kolento, all he has to get here, even if he's got 3 bad matchups, is 1 good game, because he needs to win 1 to win the series.
Yeah, just like when Strifecrow was down 0-2, all he needed was just some good draws to queue into Face Hunter, and he got those good draws, and he was able to come back. Similarly, Kolento, even though he's up 2-0 in this scenario, he just needs to get some good draws in order to win the unfavorable matchups. And even though the cards in his hand aren't that great right now, he has the coin, which is pretty huge with the Wild Pyromancer.
It's a big deal. In Priest, that coin allows you, the Wild Pyro, to get a little bit more removal, a little bit more bang for your buck, but there is an Innervate here for Kaldi, getting that turn 2 Yeti, turn 3 Shade, turn 4 Shredder. Well, we'll have to see how things go, but...
Yeah. I think normally you would want to Innervate at the Shade, but against Priest, I think the innervating a Shade, it just dies to Shadow Word Death, and you'd rather want these 4 attack creatures out as soon as possible. So curving out a little better with Innervate one of the 4-drops into a Shade into another 4-drop, I think is going to be the play, and it's going to be very effective.
It's going to be an insane play, I think. I mean, the way that Kolento deals with this is... I mean, I can't see it yet. He's going to have to throw one of his 2-drops into it. Possibly a Recombobulator on an empty board. It's not impossible.
Yeah, I like the Yeti much better than the Shredder, because
I agree.
Yeah, the Yeti can possibly, or the Shredder can possibly just run into a Dark Cultist, and then the Dark Cultist is going to be traded favorably, or just equally, but it's going to get off its death rattle. So, yeah, this is, I think, much better.
Well, we did see the 2-drop sacrificial Recombobulator here from Kolento, so Kaldi's got to make the call. Do I kill that thing, or do I let the Priest deal with my Yeti on his own? And I feel like, since you're committed to this board at this point, you just go face and let the Priest handle everything, no?
Yeah.
Afraid of Valiance Chosen, actually. That's probably it.
That's true. Even though, I think if he researched Kolento, he knows that Kolento really doesn't like Valiance Chosen.
Goodness, look at this play here from Kolento.
Oh, it's going to be pretty insane.
This is brutal.
And we just talked about Wild Pyromancer plus the coin, how valuable that is.
Yeah, well, there it is.
Wow.
And it trays into the Shredder on the back end. A little perk. So now Kaldi has to throw his curve off if he wants to deal with that Wild Pyro.
Yeah, this is exactly the kind of scenarios Priest wants to put you in. Just deal with your opponent's creatures really effectively with their combos, and make your opponent's turns just be very awkward. Yeah,
and you know what I really do like? I have to say one thing in favor of Priest in general, as a class. The way they're designed is... Hearthstone, it's a pretty young game, we have to be honest. It's been out for about a year now. As far as card games go, that's pretty early. And a lot of the gameplay is very curve-based, right? You play on tempo. You play turn 2, 2-drop, turn 3, 3-drop, turn 4, 4-drop. And the games tend to be very linear. Whereas when you play with Priest, you have to make adaptations that go out of the ordinary with combo plays with Wild Pyromancer. And I think that's something that's very compelling from a gameplay perspective.
Oh, yes, almost certainly. You have the very, standard classes like Druid, but then you have the wonky classes like Priest, and I think they balance each other out really well.
Alright, well, that shielded mini-bot is probably one of the best outcomes that you could get out of that Shredder.
Yeah. Not only is it just really strong overall, but it's not as weak to Shadow Madness as some other options.
Yep.
Like, you have to ping off the shield first before you can, like, kill it off with Shadow Madness.
So, Kaldi here might be considering Spectral Knight, but here's the drawback. If there is a Circle of Healing Kolento's hand, he circles, then pings the shielded mini-bot, and then gets to attack into the Spectral Knight with the Akanai. If you play Jewel of the Claw and attack into the Akanai, then you risk... I mean, he's still in a position where he gets punished severely here for the potential Circle of Healing. Oh, wow. You want to talk about draws?
Yeah. That's also another thing we didn't consider, is that Thought Steal is actually worse against this druid than against the typical standard druid, because you're less likely to get, like, the Sludge Belcher, for instance.
Yeah, which allows you to get a bit more survivability against their combo. Well, if he makes the mistake of dropping Sylvanas here, the Shadow Madness is going to punish him pretty severely, so I think he's not going to make that call. And he does trade, and that gives a not too good Shadow Madness here for Kolento. It's not a bad one, mind you, but it's also not the one he wanted to get. But maybe it's the one he deserves.
Like that Stinking End the Batman reference there?
I totally didn't. What is Batman?
I believe you. What is Batman?
I don't know. Who is Batman?
He's Bruce Wayne. Didn't you hear? He kind of like advertises who he is, like, every single chance that he gets. So I'm surprised you don't know.
I'm Batman. Alright, well, that Savage Roar is not too bad. It's 12, what is it, 14? 16 damage, but it's not quite there yet. However, what Kaldi could do, you know, if he ignores Sylvanas and the full one gets to live, it's really not that bad, is it? I mean, if you drop your own Sylvanas and go face here, you punch him for 10 and you're setting up a potential lethal on the back end. You're risking losing your Sylvanas to his, but that's a risk you've got to be taking sometimes. He makes the trades. I'm confused. But at the same time, it makes sense. He's got a mini-bot to trade into the 4-1s.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter which one it takes. Actually, stealing the mini-bot would be the worst, but...
Yeah, it's a 33. And the Shadow Madness is now going to give Kolento the treat he wants with the follow-up Shade of Nax. Well, Kolento's got to be happy about that line of play, because he can secure the board and get a minion on it at the same time. And honestly, his follow-ups are looking incredible.
Yeah, pretty much a lot of the cards that he would want right now. He has the Shadow Word Deaths to deal with the Dr. Boom or potential Ancient of Lore. He has a lot of solid minions. Like, even though Harrison Jones and Spectral Knight aren't exactly what he wants, he can just use them as fodder to kind of trade with his opponent's minions.
Yep. And Kaldi's going to be in a position of having to play BGH as a body here. We saw him do that last game. Alright.
So, that's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah,
Wild
pretty
Pyromancer,
dry
but
play here.
no spells for Kolento to work with.
Well, he did get a really good one first, right? So things have to even out eventually. He got a way to deal with a Shade of Nax and a Yeti at the same time.
Yeah, fair enough. So, how defensively does Kolento play here? Because if he doesn't drop the Sludge Belcher, then he just dies to combo.
Yeah, he's got. I think if you play Sludge Belcher, you're not really allowing yourself the ability to follow up with plays. So you just have to drop everything you've got and hope for a good Shadow Madness or Shadow Word Death follow up. Well,
Wrath helps a bit.
You drop Sylvanas and Wrath the Wild Pyro, and then you hit face for 8. And then you could set up a good lethal with Sylvanas. I mean, one Savage Roar hitting well is going to be fine.
Is there any merit to wrathing for 1?
I was going to ask, can you card draw here and justify it? You could find an Ancient of Lore, but you can't play it yet. If you find an Innervate, you could still play Sylvanas, so that's not a big deal. If you find Force of Nature, you'd be fine, but at the same time, you'd top deck it anyway. You're just digging through for Force of Nature at this point if you do Wrath for 1.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think the Wild Pyromancer is too threatening, though. And you can't really clear it off efficiently and develop your Sylvanas in the same turn if you choose to Wrath for 1.
It's one or the other. Alright, well, he does go for the Sylvanas, kill the Wild Pyro play, putting Kolento on 14 health. Now, Kolento knows there's no combo in his opponent's hand, but he's got to suspect at least one piece of it is lying around there. And look at this. Look at this. He can Shadow Word that Sylvanas, but... Ooh, wait. That is surprising to me, because it makes the Shade live. So is he just going to put down the Sludge to stop Sylvanas and the BGH? That is likely the outcome of this. I don't see anything else.
That's really interesting. He has to heal himself because he obviously can't heal the Spectral Knight.
Oh, wow. That is a pretty good draw.
So how much damage is that? That's 6 plus 9 plus
Yeah, he's
10.
got 15. Actually, that's lethal.
Wow.
Wow, that Keeper of the Grove on the Sludge Belcher is going to give Kaldi lethal with Savage Roar hero power.
That's exactly lethal, actually.
Yeah, 16 exactly. Not a bit over it. Well, it did go kind of as predicted, despite the fact that Kolento got an amazing board wipe on the Shade and Yeti early on. That Innervate was really crucial for Kaldi, though, getting that early board and curving out pretty well against Kolento.
Yeah, just a really nice overall. Like, even though we said that this was a really favorable matchup for Kaldi just because of the tech choices he made in his Druid deck, it actually was a lot closer than we made it seem.
Definitely.
Kolento just got a really great opening start, and he was able to kind of stabilize from there, but unfortunately the Sylvanas from Kaldi just kind of was too much pressure.
Yeah.
And Kolento wasn't able to deal with it effectively.
I think that Sylvanas was really the extra minion that forced Kolento in a really awkward position. I was expecting him to play the last turn a bit differently, where he would have just dropped, attack with Shade and Spectral Knight into the Druid of the Claw, and then Shadow Word Death, perhaps Sylvanas, and drop a Belcher. That way his opponent gets a 4-2, and then he attacks into Belcher forcefully. I thought that was a bit more of a safer play, because you're removing a 5/5 effectively. But
I guess the issue there is you could potentially give your opponent the Shade, which will turn into a 5/3.
No, but you didn't. If you didn't power shield it, it died to the 4/6.
Oh, that's true.
Which was kind of the line of play I would have taken. But Kolento saw things differently, and he's going to be losing a game against Kaldi, who is on his way to a perhaps convincing reverse sweep. He's got Rogue left and the Warlock, and Warlocks are known, especially handlocks, are known to be very tough to deal with as a priest.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of demon handlocks lately from, for example, a Strife Crow, but I think it's very possible that Kaldi might be bringing just the traditional handlock with Mountain Giants, because those are just really hard for priests to deal with in the opening turns. I mean, you do have Shadow Word Death, but if you, for example, Shadow Word Death, the Mountain Giants, then you still have Molten Giants, Ragnaros possibly, Melgatus, and Ragnaros to deal with, and you just don't have that many Shadow Word Deaths, right, in your entire deck.
Even if you've got the 2, it's still not enough, unless Kolento somehow decides to bring BGHs to his help. I mean, at least Light of the Naru with, what's his name, the Organized Soul Priest does help remove some of the minions that stick around, like an anti-kill bot, an Earthering Farseer. That can help sometimes, but it's generally not enough. So Kolento is going to be going for his Priest, obviously, versus Kaldi's Warlock, as we expected. But anyway, we're going to see the entire lineup from Kaldi unless he loses this game. And I really can't wait to see if he did bring the standard handlock or a demon handlock.
Yeah, I think both are very viable. Even the Demon Handlock would be just still very amazing against Priest. Priest just, it doesn't have a lot of silence. It doesn't run silence at all in its deck at all.
Not anymore.
Exactly. So you can't really silence Void Callers. You can't silence Twilight Drakes. And both are some of the most difficult cards for Priest to deal with.
Yep. It used to be, I mean, you used to run one silence, and I remember Kolento played that. There was, what tournament was it? He was running his one silence in versus Shaman. Shaman was everywhere, and silence used to be pretty good because Headlock was everywhere back then, but it's kind of been phased out as it's not consistent enough across the board to justify deck slot.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's just been way better cards released, like the Naru, Valen's Chosen, Vol'jin, and you have to cut some cards somewhere, and silence is usually the first to go. So Kaldi, we see his opening hand, but we don't really have much of a clue about what type of handlock it is, other than that it is just a handlock.
Yeah, does look like it. It looks like there's some kind of handlock, whatever type it is. I like that there's multiple archetypes for Warlock now. You know, with the disparition of Zoo, Mage was the new Warlock with the ability to build multiple types of decks. They had Mech, they had Freeze, they had Mid-Range Mage, they had Value Mage with Echo of Medivh. There's even Flood Mage now with Reynad's build-up of it. Tiddler Mage even now with the Ice Block and an aggressive deck, if you've seen it at all. So Mage has like 6 archetypes that can all be played on ladder, whereas Warlock was pretty much down to handlock for a while, and then Demon Lock came out early in GVG, and that was a really exciting moment.
Not only does Warlock have a lot of archetypes, but it also has like a spectrum of archetypes. On one end you have Zoo, and then the other end you have Handlock, and in between there's various incarnations of Demon Lock, and then after that there's Demon Handlock, and after that there's Handlock, and there's just like hundreds of ways to build it depending on what cards you pick in your deck. So we do see a Mountain Giant in Kaldi's hand, so it is indeed going to be more of the standard handlock, even though it is possible for players to have just Mountain Giants in their deck and also Void Callers. So don't discount the possibility of Void Callers in this deck as well.
There might be demons, but I feel like the typical handlock is so much better than any kind of, you know, funky text that I really would be surprised if Kaldi didn't just bring the standard stuff, and he finds Molten. God.
that's a whiff. Sun Fairy Protector is going to be pretty much useless. Molten Giant is going to be even more useless because Priest is almost never going to have below 20 or like he's going to have such a hard time casting that Molten Giant.
Yep. Well, Coin Giant looks like a pretty good play.
Yeah, why not?
I don't know why he didn't do it. It seems so good.
Exactly. But yeah, obviously if you coin the Giant, then you're going to be really sad when
when you can't play it.
Yeah. Well, there's another play that was tap and then coin.
Into coin, yeah, just to empty the hand and get higher value cards.
Yeah.
But then you're just sacrificing 2 health for very little. But I see the merit in it sometimes. And yep, down comes the Mountain. I'd be surprised if we didn't see it. I mean, is Kaldi really going to consider another line of play like Coin Belcher?
Yeah, that just seems like you give your opponent a card from the Northshire as well.
Yeah, I don't see the merit in it very often.
I think maybe he's trying to bluff his opponent into thinking, like, I might have a Twilight Drake in my hands, and I'm considering, I'm deciding between the two.
Okay, so bluffing the Drakes for Kolento, who might be playing around the possibility that is possible. Because the thing is, Twilight Drake is probably one of the toughest minions for Priest to deal with, very honestly.
Yeah. So now here's an interesting one. I think actually the most threatening card for Handlock in this matchup is the Northshire Cleric.
Yeah.
The way that Priest wins in this matchup is just by drawing just a lot of cards in their opening hand and having being able to keep up with the Handlock in terms of draws, and at the same time drawing all their answers to threats.
And honestly, Kolento is going to be pretty happy about that Shadow Madness here. It's a pretty good line of play. It's going to give him the ability to heal the Northshire and then use Shadow Madness to great extent, giving himself another slime to replace the one that's going to sacrifice itself in the near future. I think that's forcing a good Hellfire coil, though, for Kaldi. Mm-hmm. Do you Hellfire because your Giant is almost dead? It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. But again, like I feel like the Northshire Cleric is just so threatening, the most threatening card in your opponent's deck, to be honest. We saw that Kolento actually attacked with his slime into the Handlock last turn. And there's actually like 2 ways to play this matchup. One is to just go on the aggressive like Kolento's been doing. And the other way is I saw Strifecrow actually one time when he played Priest against Handlock, he actually tried to heal his opponent every single turn. So basically just make them never play the Molten Giants ever.
Yeah. I can see that. So you're just like sticking the opponent in a position where he can never empty the big threats that he's got.
Mm-hmm. So he goes with the Dr. Boom play instead. Yep. I guess he's thinking that his opponent has enough cards already in his hand, so I don't mind him getting even more.
I mean, at some point it becomes irrelevant, right? There's a point where it doesn't matter anymore how much he's got, because he's just got so much of it.
Blade Master, perhaps? You can, yeah.
That's
again,
interesting. With Light of the Naru, it's pretty
Yeah.
solid.
yeah, I really agree with this play. Like, this is the problem with the Northshire Cleric. It just draws so many cards. He's gonna draw even closer to his Shadow Word Death at this point.
The more of them he draws, the better off he'll be. He needs to find the Shadow Word Death to handle the tempo that Warlocks gain from playing those Giants. And funny enough, actually, Kaldi's got no more Giants. And one of the cards that also makes the matchup really tough on Priest is the fact that Jiraxis spawns an infinite amount of Shadow Word Death targets.
Oh man, even a Circle of Healing.
And the 1 damage to the face hit for the Boobot, that's a whiff. Well, you do want to Hellfire, but how much?
Again, I still feel like even though your opponent has a 4/9 Injured Blade Master, I still feel like the most threatening minion on the board right now is the Northshire.
Is the Northshire, yeah. Hellfire probably feels to me like a great line of play. Like, you attack into the... Problem is, if you attack into the 4/9, you're losing Dr. Boom as a result, but at least you can coil the... Oh, that's a better play. Definitely better play. Oh my god, what am I talking about? Do you see this? The Phantom Argus play. It's pretty solid with the Mortal Coil.
I at the same time, I feel like the Light Warden is also a bit threatening.
Yeah, but you can trade your Boombot into it. Like, you Defensive Argus, then you kill the 4/9 by attacking with Coil, and then you trade the Boombot into the Light Warden for a chance to kill the Northshire. Yeah, I think that's what he's going to be doing. I can't believe I didn't pick that up. That seems like one of the most obvious plays in this position. It's perfect. Like, it just feels flawless. And wow, the worst Boombots I've ever seen. 2 to the face. Well, that's a whiff.
So, even though Kolento has probably drawn about 20 cards in his deck at this point, he still hasn't reached either of his Shadow Word Deaths.
How much do you like Shadow Madness Recombobulator on the 4-drop? It's not too bad, is it?
I feel like you can get better value in this matchup, though.
Okay. With the heal bots, probably.
You have the Shrinkmeisters, so you could possibly Shrinkmeister and then Shadow Madness a Twilight Drake, for instance, and that's your only way to deal with it.
That's your only way to deal with it, yeah.
Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so he's basically saying that like these cards are useless at this moment. Sun Fury is completely useless.
I'm gonna throw them out. I'd rather you use them right now than anything else.
Wow, so unlucky from Kolento. He still doesn't draw the Shadow Word Death.
Yeah, and look at that Shadow Flame potential here. Even Hellfire is good enough, honestly. Like, you attack... Oh my god, that Hellfire is perfect! Dr. Boom lives.
Yeah, and everything else dies.
And you can then Earthring Farseer to Dr. Boom if you're afraid.
Yeah, also, Hellfire is just generally a less valuable card in this matchup. So he's gonna go with the Earthring Farseer first.
Yeah, he might Shadow Flame the Farseer instead, or try to overdraw his opponent.
Oh, wow. That's actually really great. What a great play. Okay,
so he's gonna keep Shadow Flame for Sylvanas. And I honestly can't blame him for that. So he lost Cabal Shadow Priest, and what was it? There was another card before that.
No, I think he just lost Cabal and Akanai. Those are the only 2 cards.
Okay.
So, good news for Kolento. He can play that Molten Giant now.
Yeah, I didn't think he could at any point in the game, but he found an opportunity by getting punched in. So, Belcher into possibly Light of the Naru as a boring play. But you kind of want to use that with the Akanai.
What Akanai? Right?
He lost one. Yeah, he just lost one, yeah. Well, Kaldi could bring his opponent to fatigue now that I think of it. He's made him draw way too many cards. I mean, Kolento drew so many cards off the Northshires. Okay, so this Thought Steal is actually not a whiff. He gets 2 of the best cards that he could have gotten, Lotheb and a Twilight Drake. Yeah, those cards are amazing. With a full hand, I don't think it gets much better. Yeah, he's playing Hand Priest at this point, essentially. Very common archetype now in the metagame. Ladder is full of Hand Priest. Yeah, I see them. They're like you know, you talk about Face Hunter, but Hand Priest is really the cancer of Hearthstone. Yeah, I can't even fathom. I literally can't even.
So
Multiple lines of play here from they're possible for Kaldi, but only one is going to be the one that he picks. I don't think at this point he wants to use any healing, because honestly, like, look at the board he's got, and look at the burst potential from Kolento. There's almost none. So Jiraxis being established here while you still have Siphon Soul, and you still have the anti-heal bot is probably a good idea.
yes, Jiraxis is usually the most important card in this matchup. Some people have said that Handlock is against Priest is basically you have 29 cards in your deck plus Jiraxis, and Jiraxis is just gonna single-handedly win you the game.
Wait, oh, he could actually deal a lot of damage if he could just go through Dr. Boom with that double circle and the healing. Could you wait? Oh, you need to find Shadow Word Death. How has he not found Shadow Word Death yet? I ask you. That seems very unlikely.
Maybe someone pulled a prank on him and replaced them in his deck. So he's gonna summon a 4/10 Twilight Drake right now, I feel. Yeah, 4/10 Twilight Drake sounds pretty good to me.
Or you drop the Molten. Nah, that's gonna be much better. That way you can't get your stuff Siphon sold. 11 mana is way too much.
Yeah, that's actually really nice. Unfortunately, Kaldi does have a Sunfury Protector.
With double Watcher?
Or possibly like a Sylvanas plus an Infernal even. That seems really strong. You've seen your opponent, he's already burned an Alkanine Soul Priest, so he's going to have a really hard time getting through like
this,
that.
Yeah, exactly. And if he had removal for anything you played, he would have done it.
Imagine if Kaldi draws Emperor Thurzane right now. All the cards in his hand are just reduced by 1.
That sounds balanced.
Yeah. Emperor Thurzane and Handlock. I think that's going to be a thing.
It's going to be a thing for sure. We might even see hand everything after Thurzane. But nothing draws nearly as much as Handlock. I guess mid-range log does, but not quite as much. They kind of they skip on a lot of taps, where Handlock doesn't. Alright, there's a Shadow Word Death. Like, the Shrinkmeister Shadow Madness is going to be disgusting here. It's going to be amazing here for Kolento. That's exactly what it wants to find. I mean, there's nothing better than this.
The funny thing is, like, let's say Sylvanas wasn't on the board. Kolento could have stolen that Infernal.
Yeah.
With, double Shrinkmeister Cabal.
Yep, that would have been good enough, but, I mean, I would never pass this opportunity. This is way too cool. Oh, man. What a great Shrinkmeister. Let us see if this works. I'm telling you right now, it works. It works more than well.
What's going to happen here?
If he steals that Infernal, it's going to be great for him. And he takes the 2/3. Not too bad, but not the optimal target. But look at Jiraxis. He's pretty low on health. And how does he wipe this board and heal up? Like, he's got to have... And he can't play the Giants in his hand right now. Right? It's impossible for him to play the Moltens.
So he can Infernal and Shadow Flame. Then, in order to clear...
He has to Dark Bomb.
Yeah, he needs to Dark Bomb the Drake and then attack it.
Yeah, that feels like a really wonky play. You're vulnerable to a lot of stuff, but you don't expect Priest to be able to kill you right away.
I feel like that's still fine, because on the following turn, you have another Infernal plus Shadow Flame, and you always have an anti-kill bot in your hand as well.
What if you attack the Drake, anti-kill bot? Oh no, you don't have enough mana. Yeah, it's definitely going to be an Infernal Shadow Flame turn. I can't.
Yeah, I see what you were saying.
Yeah, you know where I was going with this. Yeah, 1 mana off, and it's not going to work.
Exactly. Let's see, what other lines of play? You could also just okay, this is what you do. You do this play, but you don't deal with the Drake. Instead, you throw down some Watchers for just to set up for the following turn.
The following turn, yeah, I can probably agree with this.
Okay, so no, he's
gonna put down 1 Watcher at the very least, right?
Yeah.
Come on, Kolento, holy fire! I believe in you.
I don't know. I kind of liked just ignoring the Drake, because it's gonna deal damage to you anyway.
Yep.
So on the following turn, you can just Shadow Flame that instead, right?
But what if he plays like a mech and Tinkertown Technician, then reverses it?
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Look at that recombobulator on the 6th drop.
What is
you
he
turn
gonna
a Yeti into a... Oh, wait, Blood Mage? I thought he was going to use it on Cabal. Well, never mind me. I'm a filthy casual.
I guess that's alright. Like, what was he really looking for there? Perhaps, Lord Walker Cho. Like, the Blood Mage Shadows, is that even good? Because
Actually, it's bad for him right now, I think.
Yeah.
Like, here, I think Kaldi's got his turn mapped out for him. He attacks the Cabal, then anti-Healbot Shadow Flames. That or he just plays the Infernal, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think you can possibly just Infernal Shadow Flame.
And stay at 5? And play
like-
the other Watcher?
What does Priest have to that can like deal 5 damage to you, right?
Holy
I think-
fire, but I don't think it's played anymore. At least not very much.
Yeah, it's played in some lists, but if Kaldi has done some research, he knows that like Kolento probably doesn't play it. Also, if Kolento had it last turn, he probably would have used it for lethal, right?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So you've got a chance maybe that he draws into it from Blood Mage and typical draw, but otherwise you're not too worried. And there's a Holy Nova in Kolento's hand. That's 2 damage there. Not quite enough.
So, I guess what Kaldi is worried about is maybe an Akanai Soul Priest plus Hero Power plus Light of the Naru.
Yep.
But no, that's not gonna happen.
But the thing is, you've seen 2 lights, so it can't possibly happen this game. You've already seen 2 Light of the Narus, I think, being used to heal up with the Northshire Clerics.
Mm-hmm. So, this is actually kind of an issue.
Iron Beak Siphon Soul seems kind of okay to me. But then you can't play the anti-heal bot. Huh. Well, I mean, you could Siphon Soul Sylvanas and surrender your Watcher. Right? Like, do
Right.
you really care that much? I mean, you do, but...
Okay, so if you Siphon Soul the Sylvanas, and then you attack the Wild Pyromancer, you're sitting at 5 HP.
Oh, I've got a better
with a
idea.
Wild
Your
Pyromancer
Iron
on the
Beak,
board.
your Iron Beak Owl, your Watcher, you attack into Sylvanas, you coil whatever's taken, and then you play Heal Bot after attacking a Wild Pyro. That is so straightforward. Because then you spawn you spawn infinite infernals, and you even get to play a 6/6 on the back of that.
What you can also do is like if you just clear the Wild Pyromancers and leave the Sylvanas alive. Like the Sylvanas only represents 5 damage on the board, right?
Man, that's a play I'm not sure I... Oh,
Yeah.
why did you play the... What?
Like this play. Yeah, exactly this play.
Okay. So you let Sylvanas live.
Yeah.
Okay. My line of play was different. It was silence the Watcher, then trade into Sylvanas and kill one of the 2 Pyros. But... Uh-oh, that's getting close. That's getting awfully close, actually. Holy Nova to the face here is going to be a total of 7 damage. And then the Akanai is able to nearly, and I say nearly, set up lethal.
And this is what happens when you allow Priest to draw so many cards. Like, their cards generally aren't that great against Handlock, but just the sheer number of them can sometimes overwhelm you, even though you have like these huge Infernal turns every single turn as Handlock.
Yeah, well, the Infernals, I think, past this point are going to be what wins Kaldi the game, but there's no Shadow Word Death have been played yet. So, with a dead Molten Giant in hand, an overpriced Mountain left in the deck.
And yet another Molten Giant in the deck as well.
Oh man, that Circle of Healing is so good. Look at the amount of value. This is incredible.
What does he ping here? I guess you still ping the Infernal.
Yeah, I guess, but then again, you could ping face and it doesn't really matter, because if he kills your Alkanai, then how does he deal with Sylv? I mean, he has to Siphon Soul it, so... I mean, ultimately, clearing the board is probably the safer play, because you're not worried about him not using his weapon for removal. And he goes for exactly that.
Oh, that's dead.
So... No, yeah, that's pretty dead, unfortunately. Yep, but I think this is the turn where Kaldi just swings back. Like, full swing back in this game. Unless Kolento has some mysterious Mind Blast deck that I'm not aware of. Then again, look at that 8/8. Look at that Molten Giant.
That's true.
It's actually... Oh my
Oh.
goodness! How many cards does Kolento have left?
Yeah, I would like to see a hover over.
Well, we'll
number of
see how many
cards.
he's got after this. I think he's going to be going into fatigue after this.
Oh, there's the death.
Oh my
second
goodness. Oh, this is perfect. And the fatigue has started, but he's got a 5/4 unmanageable for Kaldi. He's dead to Harrison Jones next turn after it's because he can play Infernal and taunt it up, but that's not enough.
Wow. And
That
Kaldi
is
should
not
know
enough.
this. He hasn't seen any other Shadow Word Deaths yet. So yeah, this is pretty amazing at this point. Kolento's last 2 cards were Shadow Word Death, like 2 of the most important cards.
Oh, he finds a second tauntable minion. That is exactly what he needed here to stay alive.
Wow, Kaldi's possibly going to stay alive here.
Yeah, I didn't think it was possible, but it is the case. Mountain Giant would have been an instant loss. An Infernal taunting up everything. And now Kolento's gonna get a pretty sweet Shadow Word Death, but he's gonna be able to play that Molten Giant behind that, right?
That's pretty funny, actually. Priest being able to play the Molten Giant.
Yeah. Not something you see every day, and still, you know, he's gonna be able to put Kaldi on the clock again, wipes the board, gets an 8/8, and now Kaldi's like, well, you know what? This might be the straw that broke my camel's back.
So BGH here, or I don't know, just BGH. Or maybe like a taunter?
That is not enough. Oh my god. Priest is going to take a win against Headlock. This has been a perfectly navigated game here by Kolento. I have to give him heavy props for the way he played this.
Yeah, wow, I can't believe it. Like, again, even though Kolento's last 2 cards were Shadow Word Death, he still was able to take the game. How is that possible? Like, imagine if your deck if you had a Priest deck and you didn't, like, you just forgot to put Shadow Word Death in your entire deck.
Yeah.
What are the chances that you can beat a Handlock? Close to 0, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And so, Kolento's equalizing the series here. I mean...